Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Cinema Chat. This is my, I don't know, podcast slash movie talk thing on my channel here. I'm not sure. Long form content of me talking movies, that's pretty much just audio. So we'll call it a podcast. Probably is a podcast. But, anyways, this is the first episode of it. And it's basically just going to be pretty much a weekly thing where uh, for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes or so, I talk about, I don't know, a certain subject every week. That's pretty much going to be it. So, yeah. So, what are we going to be talking about on this first episode today? The first episode, we'll be talking about the Evil Dead franchise. To celebrate the release of Evil Dead Rise, the latest entry in this franchise. And I gotta tell you, the Evil Dead franchise is one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. It's up there with Friday the 13th. I mean, they're both just amazing franchises that I really, really like. The Evil Dead franchise, I don't think has a single bad movie in it. I think at its worst, it just has good movies in it. So that's really good when you're a horror franchise. I mean, most horror franchises, you have one, maybe two, or if you're something like Wrong Turn, then like six of your movies are damn near unwatchable trash, worst of all time. So the Evil Dead franchise doesn't have that. So it's a very consistent franchise. So yeah, when I went to go see Evil Dead Rise, which I do have a full spoiler-free review for on my channel, go check it out. When I went to go see Evil Dead Rise, I was just expecting to at least have a good time with the movie at the worst, but I had like sky high expectations for this movie. When we eventually get into the later part of this podcast thingy, um, I'm gonna do a ranking of the Evil Dead franchise and talk about all of them. But my number one is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and so kind of hoping that Evil Dead Rise would live up to that and just be an amazing horror movie that was going to have everything you want from an Evil Dead movie. You know, like the gore, the awesome deadites, just the uncomfortable, pushing the edge, all that fun stuff. That's basically what I was expecting from this movie. And um, to sum up my experience with this movie, I thought it was good. Yeah, it's not my favorite movie in this franchise, nowhere near it, but it is a good Evil Dead movie. You get what you want from an Evil Dead movie. There's just some story issues I had with the movie that hold it back a little bit from being amazing, but yeah, I had a really good time with it. I'm actually thinking about going and seeing it again, probably the day after I'm recording this episode, just because I don't know. I just kind of want to go to the movie theater, get out of the house, go see a movie, and you know what? I had a good time with Evil Dead Rise, and maybe I'll like it more the second time. Who knows? Sometimes that happens where you just watch a movie and you're in a certain mood, affects your viewing experience. So I don't know. Evil Dead Rise, I might like it more in a second viewing, but we shall see. We shall see. But yeah, so when talking about the Evil Dead franchise today, I'm going to be talking about all five of the movies, and I'm also going to be talking about the three seasons of the TV show Ash versus Evil Dead. So, yeah, without further ado, I guess let's just kick this off with the ranking for the Evil Dead franchise. So, coming in sixth place for me, while still being a good film that I consider a good film, is going to be easily Army of Darkness for me. To me, this is like the odd one out in this franchise because it's not really a horror movie. It's like this slapstick Three Stooges movie with Ash from Evil Dead in it. Um, yeah, I mean, you get some really iconic lines in here, like "This is my boomstick," and just getting Ash with his chainsaw hand for the entire movie. In this one, so there certainly are iconic moments in it. It's a fun movie. I like the medieval setting. There is a severe lack of gore for Evil Dead in this. So that's one criticism, that there's just a severe lack of gore for it being in the Evil Dead franchise. But just seeing Ash fight Deadites the whole time, being in this medieval setting is pretty cool. Bruce Campbell, as always, is just amazing in this movie. It's just a good movie. I'm sure if you have nostalgia for watching this movie, like in the 90s or early 2000s, I'm sure you'll like it a lot more than I do. I watched it for the first time like 2 years ago, so I was already 18 when I first saw this movie, so I have like no nostalgia for this movie. But it's a good movie. I mean, I can watch it and tolerate it and have a good enough time with it, but when I'm in the mood for an Evil Dead movie, I'm never like, oh yes, let me go watch Army of Darkness. It just doesn't feel that much like Evil Dead. It really just feels like it's the redheaded stepchild of the Evil Dead franchise to me. But yeah, still a good movie. I mean, if you're watching the original trilogy of Evil Dead movies, you certainly have to watch Army of Darkness and finish out that story. But yeah, it's just, to me, it's easily like the weakest movie in this franchise, while still being a good movie. Um, I'm actually looking at my Letterboxd right now as I'm doing this too. I have Army of Darkness at a 3 out of 5 stars. So when the worst thing in your franchise is 3 out of 5 stars, you're doing pretty good. Yeah, Evil Dead and Scream are like the two most consistent horror franchises. So go Evil Dead and go Scream. Alrighty. Next up above Army of Darkness. This one's probably going to be controversial because I know this is a fan favorite. And that's going to be Evil Dead 2, actually. Yeah, Evil Dead 2. This seems to be, like, for hardcore Evil Dead fans, this seems to be, like, the number one answer for them for, like, favorite in this franchise. It's never been my favorite in the franchise, and I've watched this franchise 3 or 4 times now. It's just never been that for me. I mean, there's just like some things that this movie does that I think is pretty weird. Like the whole retelling the original movie is a little bit weird. I don't really care for the ending all that much with Ash teleporting to the medieval setting. Like, I mean, it makes sense in retrospect now that we have Army of Darkness, but like just thinking of it as its own like film, just like its own singular thing, it to me it just never makes sense how like that you just end the movie with Ash in the middle of nowhere, and then it took them 5 years to make the next movie. Like I don't know, that just always bothers me. It's like I wasn't even alive in 1987 when this movie came out, so I don't know why it bothers me. It just does. Um, I mean, a lot of the movie too is just Ash doing weird shit in a cabin and just like losing his mind. Like that's a majority of the runtime of this film. But I mean, that stuff's enjoyable, right? Like, I mean, it's a criticism of the film for me personally that, yeah, it is just Ash doing a bunch of random shit. But at the same time, it's also a positive towards the film because it's really entertaining to just see Bruce Campbell just go all out weird, wacky. So that's really cool. You obviously get the iconic groovy scene in this movie, which I love that scene. I mean, that's like the one word that defines this franchise is just groovy. So yeah, I actually did like out of the theater reaction to Evil Dead Rise. Um, and the only thing I said about Evil Dead Rise is that it was groovy. I don't know how many people caught that reference. I mean, I thought it was pretty funny, but yeah. Um, anyways, back to Evil Dead 2. Yeah, I mean, you get Ash cutting his hand off. You get a lot of gore. I believe this is the one where the dude gets like pulled into the cellar, and then it's like that geyser of blood that looks like Old Faithful coming out of the basement, but of blood. So yeah, there's a lot of gore in here. Yeah. And I guess I'll mention it here because I'm pretty sure this is the one where like the tree gets possessed from outside and like starts beating up on the cabin. I believe that's this one. Or maybe that's Ash vs. Evil Dead. I think it's Evil Dead 2. Anyways, for someone who's not a fan of like demon and possession movies all that much, like certainly there are ones I love, but I mean like when you get to the generic ones like The Nun in the Conjuring universe or like The Exorcist 2 sucks. You know, there's just a lot of generic demon possession movies, and it's just not my thing. I just don't really gravitate towards that horror subgenre. I love the Evil Dead like franchise. Like it which is so weird because a lot of these movies are about like demons and possessions, but it's just like it's got its own flair to it. Like all the movies just like and the mythology of this franchise just has like this cool flair to it. So yeah, I don't know. It's it's weird. I can't describe why I like the Evil Dead possession, demon, deadite, Book of the Dead stuff more so than the Conjuring stuff, but it works for me here. I'm rambling about a lot of things that aren't Evil Dead 2 when I'm supposed to be talking about Evil Dead 2. Anyways, but yeah, Evil Dead 2. On my Letterboxd, I have it at a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So it's a good movie, a really good movie. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, coming in five. Oh wait, that was just number 5 was Evil Dead 2. Coming in fourth place is going to be Evil Dead Rise. Yeah, if you want like full, in-depth, non-spoiler thoughts for the movie, go ahead and check out my review on my channel. I think it's about 15 minutes or so. But yeah, Evil Dead Rise, I thought was a good movie. I had a fun time with it in theaters. There's a lot of gore, a lot of uncomfortable gore. The Evil Dead franchise just has a lot of really uncomfortable gore, which I enjoy. But yeah, Evil Dead Rise, really good gore, a really good performance by our lead actress, Alyssa Sutherland. And what else? I liked what they did in the third act. That was pretty cool. That if you've seen the movie, I'll kind of go a little bit spoilery here, but that creature was pretty badass in the third act. What else? Dang, I'm drawing a blank on this right now. Yeah, go check out my full review. Let's plug that. Go check it out so I don't have to re-explain all my thoughts. No. Yeah, just a really good return to form for the Evil Dead franchise. Well, not return to form, but return to the big screen for the Evil Dead franchise. And I hope the Evil Dead franchise comes back and we get, another Evil Dead movie here in a year or two, and we kind of get like an Evil Dead resurgence. I would love to see more Evil Dead movies. So yeah, I hope this does that. It seems to be performing well at the box office so far. Yeah. A few criticisms of the film for me personally is that I guess this isn't a big criticism, but the setting was fine in the high-rise building. I thought it was decent. I mean, it was a good change of pace, I guess, but part of me is just like Evil Dead purist, I guess, and just I just love that cabin in the woods setting for this franchise. So I mean, that's something that kind of bothered me, but at the same time, I kind of appreciated it. And then just the biggest negative towards this movie for me is that I didn't like the setup for how the Necronomicon and the Deadites got introduced into this movie. And I thought the story was pretty rocky for like the first third of the movie, honestly. The more I think about it, the first third of the movie has some pretty rocky and clunky storytelling, pretty much until shit hits the fan in this movie and it turns on into a full-on Evil Dead movie. It's a little bit rocky at the beginning for me, but yeah, Evil Dead Rise. If you like the Evil Dead franchise, definitely go check it out in theaters. If you're a horror fan, I think you'll like it. But yeah, just a really entertaining movie. One of the more entertaining horror movies I have seen this year because I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of good horror movies this year. Nothing compared to the amazing year that was 2022 for horror. Let's just say that. So, yeah, Evil Dead Rise. Once again, go check out my full review on my channel. And, yeah, that will give you my full thoughts. Because I'm sure I'm missing things. Because I'm kind of just doing this on the fly. I don't have notes. And I usually have notes when I do my reviews. Anyways, coming in third place is going to be the original The Evil Dead. Yeah, just a really, really good low budget film that just kind of made its own subgenre of horror, honestly, with like this extreme gore. I believe this movie was rated NC-17 when it first came out. I'm Not sure if it still is that. I don't know if movie ratings can change. But yeah, I believe it was NC-17 when it came out. This extreme gore, like just such creepy atmosphere, so creative, just like it's just like it's a really creepy movie. Honestly, watching it now, um, I believe this is Sam Raimi's first film. If it isn't his first film, it's one of his first films, and it just highlights that he's a really damn good director, and he made a horror classic. Honestly, like he made a horror classic with The Evil Dead that spawned this awesome franchise. Yeah, I mean it's got a great ending, got some great camera work in there, great gore. I don't know if I've said that. But yeah, I'd probably say that this is the scariest movie in the Evil Dead franchise. Um, and I'm not someone that really gets scared about stuff. I'm just saying, like, if you're watching all these movies and you do get scared, I think this is the one that would scare you the most. But yeah, just a really damn good horror movie that came out, what, almost 40 years ago now? This movie came out 40 years ago, and it still holds up really well to this day. And I just always have fun revisiting it, you know? Just seeing early Sam Raimi, early Bruce Campbell, this really low budget horror flick. It's impressive that they made a movie this damn good with such a low budget and being amateur filmmakers at the time. So yeah, on my Letterboxd, I have it rated at a 4 out of 5 stars. Oh, I also don't think I shared what I have Evil Dead Rise rated at on Letterboxd. It currently sits at a 3.5 star out of 5. And that one has the most potential to move up or down in this ranking is Evil Dead Rise because it's the one that I literally have only seen once and have the least amount of time to sit and process it. But yeah, it has the potential to move up or down. Depends on how a rewatch will go. Okay, coming in second place is going to be the entirety of the TV show Ash versus Evil Dead. I thought this show was amazing. Yeah, I mean, I loved this show. Technically, you can't rate it on Letterboxd, and so it's like not on my list on Letterboxd. I just have like some random Ash versus Evil Dead behind the scenes thing in my Letterboxd ranking, and I haven't seen that thing, so I don't have it rated. But if I were able to rate Ash versus Evil Dead on Letterboxd, I'd probably give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was an incredible TV show. Um, if I had to rank the seasons individually, I would go season 3 in third place, season 2 in second place, and season 1 in first place. But I didn't feel like splitting up the seasons in this ranking, so I don't know, that just would have been too hard. But yeah, I just thought this was such a fun TV show to binge. Like I binged this whole show in like less than a week. It was just such a fun show to watch. You get Bruce Campbell, who is just so charismatic as Ash, and just playing this man child for an entire season, like 3 seasons of television. It's a very bingeable season. It's just so much fun. Like if you like Evil Dead and you just want more Evil Dead to and just have fun with more Evil Dead stuff with Ash, then this show 100% delivers. Like this is the most fun out of anything in the Evil Dead franchise is the TV show of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Just so much fun to watch this show. Um, I it I mean yeah, it's made for TV, but it just feels like the same quality of the rest of the Evil Dead stuff. I mean, it is extremely gory in this show. I mean, there's a little bit of poking fun in itself at this show. There's a lot of really funny humor in this show. All the side characters are really good in the show too. There are some pretty interesting stories that they go on in this show. Um, yeah, I just think as it went along, though, why I don't like seasons 2 and season 3 as much as season 1 is that as it went along, I felt like The stories they chose to tell weren't as interesting, and by season 3 they went a little bit too extravagant with stuff, but I still had fun with all of it, and I really enjoyed it all. So as a whole series, it is like it definitely sits in that 4.5 out of 5 star range. So I thought Ash vs. Evil Dead was an incredible show. If you like the Evil Dead franchise, or if you just like horror in general, and you're not even that big of a fan of Evil Dead, I would definitely check out Ash vs. Evil Dead. It's just such a fun show to watch for horror fans. So yeah, I can't recommend that show enough, and I'm actually kind of upset that they canceled it after 3 seasons, and they were gonna have a fourth season too for like this big finale for the Ash vs. Evil Dead series, but then it got canceled. So darn. And I didn't even watch the show when it was running because I wasn't really into horror when it was running. I bought it all on Blu-ray, and then one day I just like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this show now. And so then I watched it all, and I'm glad I bought it because it is a show I look forward to going back and rewatching for years to come, because it it's one of the properties that makes me love the Evil Dead franchise. And that leaves us with our number one spot today, which not only is my favorite movie in the Evil Dead franchise, but it is my second favorite horror film of all time, and that is going to be Evil Dead 2013. This movie is fucking awesome. This is one of the most badass horror movies I have ever seen. It in If you take Terrifier out of the competition, this is probably the goriest movie I've ever seen. Um, it is just relentless with the brutality. It's This is literally everything I want from an Evil Dead movie. It's everything I want from a horror movie. This is just it's like I said, it's my second favorite horror film of all time besides John Carpenter's The Thing. But yeah, I adore this movie. It's one of my go-to horror movies. It's kind of one of those comfort horror movies for me, where if I'm just in the mood for a horror movie, don't really know what to do, I'm probably gonna watch The Evil Dead, that or Halloween 2018. Those seem to be my two horror comfort movies. But yeah, this is the movie that got me into Evil Dead. This is the movie that made me an Evil Dead fan. Um, yeah, if you're not into Evil Dead, if you've never seen Evil Dead before, just watch this remake. Tell me it sucks, and we'll have an argument because you are wrong. This movie is awesome. I think the character of Mia is amazing in this movie. There's a lot of really cool callbacks to to the original trilogy, but it certainly stands on its own and does its own thing. But yeah, this is like what horror remakes should do, where you like take pretty much the basics from that original and you just modernize it, and in some ways, and in this case, improve upon it. So yeah, this is one of the best horror remakes. It's my favorite movie in this franchise, and I rated a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I think it is awesome. So yeah, Evil Dead 2013. I don't really have anything negative to say about it, honestly. I mean, like, everything in this movie works for me. And on rewatch, if you've seen this movie before and you rewatch it, just see how, like, the short end of the stick in every single situation that the guy in glasses gets. Like, that dude gets fucked up in this movie. Like, he gets the worst of the worst pain that like imaginable in this whole movie. He always gets hurt in every situation. So yeah, I would hate to be that guy in this movie if I had to pick who I got to be in Evil Dead 2013, which I wouldn't want to be anyone, because they all die in like the gnarliest ways possible. Um, but yeah, Evil Dead 2013, can't recommend it enough. If you don't really have interest in Evil Dead franchise, that's cool, but you need to have interest in Evil Dead 2013 because it's a badass horror movie. Which is a badass horror movie is not something I say very often, but this one certainly is. Woo! So that is my ranking of the Evil Dead franchise. Um, Yeah, and I think that is going to conclude it for my first episode today of Cinema Chat, my awesome podcast I'm going to start doing on my channel here. So, yes, I have mentioned my Letterboxd quite a few times in this podcast today. So, if you would like to follow me, go ahead and drop me a follow. My username on Letterboxd is Fox Nervig. There will be a spelling and probably link to that in the description down below. Go ahead and give me a follow for that. I would love to get some more followers on my Letterboxd so you can see all the movies I watch and how I rate them. So yeah, go ahead and do that if you'd like. Yeah, this will probably be a weekly thing, so check back next Tuesday for episode 2, where I have a few ideas for a few new topics to cover. So I have 2 ideas for topics, so we'll see which one I feel like doing for next week. But yeah, check up next week for that. And thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next episode.